You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signed police reform legislation into law on today, more than 2 weeks after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis sparked not a nationwide, but an international movement. Governor Cuomo signed into law a bundle of police reform bills passed by the legislature this week. Here's exactly what he announced.
The New York State Legislature has quickly passed the most aggressive reforms in the nation. I'm going to sign those bills in a moment. 50A reforms, so there's transparency. We're banning chokeholds, Attorney General Special Prosecutor, ending false race-based 9/11 reports. I want to applaud the leaders who have done great work. These are tough times to be in government. There's a lot of issues, a lot of crises, a lot of demands, and they got it done, and they got it done quickly. I want to thank the bill sponsors who have done a great job and actually came to resolution. The truth is this: police reform is long overdue. And Mr. Floyd's murder is just the most recent murder. This is not just about Mr. Floyd's murder. It's about being here before, many, many times before. It is about a long list that has been all across this country that always makes the same point: injustice against minorities in America by the criminal justice system. And today is about enough is enough. It's about Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. How many times do you have to see the same case before you do something? How many times? This was Eric Garner. This was Abner Louima. It was Amadou Diallo. Same case over and over and over.
Joining us right now is Speaker Carl Heastie of the New York State Assembly. Speaker Heastie, I listened to the governor there mention all those cases, but it took this case for it to happen. And I think what black folks in New York State are asking is, why couldn't this happen 4 or 5 years ago? Why couldn't this have not been passed and signed into law after Eric Garner?
You know, Roland, you're probably, I'd say, the third person who's interviewed me to ask me that question. And I would really say, I've had one of those cases that happened here in my own assembly district, Ramarley Graham, who was my constituent. But I just think on all of these cases that we would have thought it could have been Amadou Diallo, it could have been Sean Bell, it could have been Eric Garner, and many, many others, and Ramarley Graham, like I said. But I just think something in that video, when we watched George Floyd, beg, and call out for his deceased mother, I think it just touched the nerve, not only in Minneapolis, not even here just in New York City, but all across the entire
I agree.
world.
No, I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. But I think what we struggle with, is all of the response, and I agree 100%. What people are saying is, why do we have to continue to spill black blood for people to respond? If you go through our history, you go through whether it's, again, today is the 57th anniversary of the assassination of Medgar Evers. Today. And folks are saying, why do we have to die for folks to then respond with changes in law?
Again, Roland, that's a great question, and I'm not sure I even have the answer. But all I know is that in all of the years that I've been protesting, all of the years that I've been outraged, even before I was an elected official, because when Amadou Diallo was shot and killed, I wasn't elected yet. But when you just seen the collectiveness of people taking it to the streets, people around the world, I think it moved people who probably it wasn't even on their radar as much as it was to us in the Black community. Because a lot of times in some of these protests, it was just us protesting. But this time around, we saw every race and creed saying that, enough is enough. I feel bad that it took us this long. And I apologize that it took this long. And I wish we had never had to get to this place where we actually have to pass legislation like this to try to stop the bloodshed of more Black and brown people. But I'm pleased that we are here where we are today. But I don't think we're done, Roland. I think we also have to deal with other social issues.
Yes.
Systemic issues in education and health and income inequality. All of those things I think that we have to touch on. It's not just police and community relations that gets us on the level playing field that we should be on.
Which is why I believe we should be looking at this moment like this is the third Reconstruction. The first Reconstruction took place after the Civil War, 1865 to 1877. The second Reconstruction, even though Manning Marable says in his book 45 to 2006, I really say the second Reconstruction really was 1955 to 1968. That this is the third Reconstruction, which means that we should not be looking at it as what can happen in a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months with the election in November. We should be saying, no, we know exactly why the first Reconstruction did not do so well. We know why the second one fell short. Here's the opportunity to confront it in the third Reconstruction. Because what the George Floyd death has unleashed is a focus on police reform, education, health, white supremacy, statues. Now you got corporations are now dealing with the reckoning inside of their own corporations from their Black employees and from their white employees. I think thinking about this as a third Reconstruction now causes us to think a lot more larger and bigger than solely police reform.
No, I absolutely agree. And in my comments today at the press conference, when the governor announced he was signing the bills, I did say that this is not the end, that we do have to start to concentrate on all these other places that we know that we've had racial injustice, and places where there isn't equality and where Black and brown people are still not on the same level as many of the others are in America. And as you said, this needs to be the next phase. And that phase should not start a month from now or the next budget cycle that we have. That next phase needs to start today.
New York State Speaker Carl Heastie, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Rod Richardson, I want to go to you. The point I made there, and this is what people keep saying. Why do we have to wait for people to die for politicians and others to do what's right?
Well, and it's more than that, because we've had lots of people die before this. As you said, we have a collective grievance going on here about how we've been treated in this country, and people didn't want to pay attention. We were told before, Roland, that, when we get body cams and people see the evidence, that we're going to be able to see everything that happens, then maybe people will be able to see. And we've had so many examples. Philando Castile, you went through all the other examples. Example of Tamir Rice, Samuel DuBose. I mean, there's a lot. We would be here forever talking about the names. And nothing really got people. They could always find the shortcut. Oh, there was something wrong with them. They did this. They smoked weed 10 years ago. This was undeniable. I think this did rise the conscience, and it happened. It's a horrible thing that happened at the right time, because with COVID-19, people were captivated in front of their cell phones, in front of their TVs, and then they were sympathetic, and also a lot of people had nothing else to do. So there was a moment at this time where people wanted to get out and vent their frustrations, and this collective grievance came. I hope no one else has to die for us to do this. And I love the way you framed it in terms of this being the third Reconstruction, because policing is a microcosm of everything that's going on. The fact is that the officer who killed him and the officers who participated in it, they felt so empowered. They knew they weren't going to be held accountable. To take a man's life and take his life as he pleads and begs, and you just to sit on him, and for him to feel that empowered, that tells you how far we've gone in a society in terms of the devaluing of Black life. So that's the answer to your question: is our lives aren't valued, and we need to make sure it's valued. And that's why I'm so glad people rose up in the streets, because this is enough. I mean, I was extremely angry. I'm always angry, but I think this one made everybody even that much more angry. Because I'm like, had they not rose up, they weren't even going to charge any of these officers. The prosecutor wasn't going to do that. We talked about this on the show. They weren't going to do it. And I think people just got frustrated, and the collective grievance at this time just led to a boiling point.
Niambi, this is the thing that, again, people keep saying, why can't you lead? Why? I mean, the governor sat there and mentioned Amadou Diallo, Abner Louima, Eric Garner. He could have moved after Eric Garner, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think this is that point that everybody is speaking of, that frustration. Like, this has happened under multiple administrations, right? This is not about party. This is not about any of those things, right? All of these deaths that we can catalog, as Rob rightly pointed out, we can keep going, right? This is not about a party issue. It's not even about having greater controls, because remember, body cams are supposed to be the savior of these moments. And yet police officers regularly abuse people with the cameras on, or they have the power to turn them off. And then we have cities that won't even release the footage, like they did with Laquan McDonald in Chicago. And honestly, had this child not recorded the death of Mr. Floyd, God knows what Minneapolis would have done. Probably nothing, right? And so I think what's happened over and over and over again is we see what happens when you have this sort of reverence for an institution like the police, and then you let them do whatever they want because they're supposed to be these sort of vaunted members of the public, and all they are bullies with guns. And we sit by. I mean, the only time I think it's really funny for Americans to really be into unions is when we talk about police unions. And finally, somebody decided. I'm sorry?
I said preach. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. Finally somebody decided to stand up to these guys. And we saw how poorly O'Meara and the rest of them took it, when all they're going to do is now make your personnel records public like any other person with a job. Being a police officer is a job. It's an occupation. None of us get to behave badly on our jobs and then go out and expect to find another job doing the same thing at a different firm, unless you're a police officer. So I think this moment is a really important one. And I think it's time for all of us to actually, listen to Black people for once and not need our bodies in the street as evidence when we tell you these things are happening, that police do these things with sort of unbridled and unfettered brutality.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Black-owned company, Mary Spiel. She created these amazing headphones, 360-degree headphones, 4D. Gamers love them. I love them with music. Of course, you can even talk on them. They're Bluetooth. Just great set of headphones. We have a great partnership with them. If you go to Ceek.com, Ceek.com, use this promo code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020, for you to be able to check these, to get these headphones. And so, real cool. They're great. So if y'all going to be out there and you're buying JBL and Bose and the rest of these companies, hey, you might as well support a Black-owned company with these headphones. Ceek.com, Ceek.com. And again, promo code is RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020.